Well, it's now time to bring you a first feature on the show today with a focus on the NIN registration. A population of over 200 million people, Nigeria has estimated 198 million active mobile lines, and as of May this year, only about 41.5 million of this number have registered for identity cards, and that's not up to a quarter of the country's population. Earlier this year, the National Identity Management Commission, that's the NIMC, an organization set up to operate the national identity database in the country, confirmed that only 38% of Nigerians have any form of identification, which means a lot of Nigerians are still not recognized by the NIMC. In lieu of this, the Nigerian Communication Commission began the registration of SIM card earlier in April 2010, ordering mobile network subscribers to also provide personal information and submit biometric scans in order to register their SIM cards in a bid to achieve accurate data management in the country. Earlier this month, the NTC directed that SIM card users in the country update their data with telecom operators with NIN and SIM not linked to it. The national identification number will be blocked, however, to ensure that all citizens are captured in this exercise. The federal government has further extended the deadline for the provision of the national identification number by telecommunication service subscribers to the 9th of February, as well as the cancellation of USSD and verification fees charged by telecom operators in the country. Well, joining me now live in our Lagos studio to bring some more insight into this topic, I have with me the co-founder of Budget, Joseph Agumbiade. Good to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Now, in our quest for creating stronger developmental agenda, we need to work with big data.
Absolutely.
This is one of the conversations we keep on having time and time again. Now, that also begs the question of how we address such issues. Now, looking at the national identification number at this point in time, the rush we are having, it seems quite absurd. Now, globally, around the world, there's no way you have data collection just stipulated within a time period. Registrations are ongoing processes. You perfect the data collection process as time goes on. What do you make of the extension of deadline we have for now, and then still fixing a date, stopping when people get to register?
Yeah, so obviously from history, what you must have seen with our policymakers is that they just do this thing because they want to achieve critical mass, and the citizens are getting used to it. And, it's not a good thing for you to be perceived as a weak leader because you make threats that they know nothing will happen. And so they keep doing these things over and over again. And there are a lot of lawsuits, actually, with respect to all the threats that people will be yanked off if they don't get it done and link it up together. We all knew they were going to extend it. And beyond that, there's going to be another extension, surely. But, yeah, so it is lack of, trust. We need to be able to trust these guys consistently and don't make people feel like they are not part of, we are appointed and they're just representing us. And so when policies are made, it shouldn't be in form of threat. It should be such that because we
you don't register, you get blocked.
You get blocked. We are all stakeholders. We are equal, though. This thing. We are all equal. We just appointed them to represent us, and so they need to understand that. It's just like a father that is always threatening the children in the house. We can't keep playing that kind of hanky-panky game, and so we know if by the end of that date they're going to extend it again, there's nothing much they can do.
But do you understand that these efforts are to sanctify and then bring some sanity to the industry?
Oh, absolutely. And because of that, that is more reason why they should promote the benefit and get people motivated that, if there are no incentives, you want someone to get something done. Yeah, it will benefit the person, but for you, it's also a KPI. As a minister, it will be good for you to deliver. It's going to be good on you because eventually you add it to your CV that during your time you achieved this. So set the incentives to us. Tell us that this is going to help us achieve this rather than threatening us. So long term, we need to we need to actually do this thing the right way and stop threatening the citizens.
Now, one of the biggest challenges Nigeria has also been faced with is the fact that we have multiplicity of data pools. We've not necessarily perfected that ideal of a synchronized data system. Now, at this point in time, how do you think we would have this play out once again? Nigerians are given access their personal information.
Yeah.
Telecommunication operators have that. But at the back of our minds, now, one of the biggest questions we also have is the fact that this leaves an element of uncertainty in terms of the attacks we might have. I've had my own BVN called out to me, my date of birth, my full name, and a whole lot more, all in a bid to just get my ATM card details. Now, Nigerians are also asking, how secure is this data we are providing, sending to the shortcut? Because we know hackers are going to be awake now.
Oh, definitely. So you'll be surprised to know the number of data of Nigerians that are out there, owned by different countries, first of all, and a lot of that. And I'm also aware that Paradigm Initiative of Nigeria and a couple of other organizations have already sued NCC, the minister, telcos and all of that, that the telcos do not have the right to keep our data. Because if you have a telco that has allegiance to the country and to other countries, having your data do you even know where the data is? You know, so there are lawsuits already, actually, with respect to these, why this data should be given to them. I mean, you know, technology today makes a lot of these things very easy. As a matter of fact, even NIN itself, for those who don't have. So if you have BVN already, you know, there should be some sort of API that can get them whatever they need from the BVN, because it's basically the same biometric data that you're collecting, that somebody else has collected before. And so I'm using technology, and these technologies are not technologies that you have to go, no rocket science like building rockets to go to space. They are basic application technology that you can actually do. So with APIs, you can establish what you want to do. So if you want to link up to my, with the telco, you don't need to, you just need to check that, oh, this guy has done his NIN, and then you can just match it together rather than moving data around. Those are the things that we do to expose ourselves as a country. Hackers are just smiling, because they will always be the gullible ones.
They have a pool of data to just
they have it. They have most of those data. And the more we register, they just collect it. They are funnels. Even the most secure nations on earth get hacked. You know, how much more for our own that is just open? And so, I mean, the United States is the most hacked country on earth. So we can't keep exposing ourselves. And they lose a lot of money every year to that. For us, we don't have a lot of money. I mean, look at our deficit, what we are paying every year. So we can't even afford to lose anything. So we need to be extremely careful. As we start talking about making our country digital and all of that and smarter, we need to start making, from our policy point of view, start making right policies that actually cater for this level of smartness. Because these hackers, those guys are smiling to bank every day, you know.
Now, looking at the agenda as well that we are expecting, you talk about creating smart cities. Everybody's looking towards AI, the Internet of Things, the area of opportunities we have on ground. But what model do you think would work for Nigeria at this point in time in terms of data collection, preserving that data, and also protecting security of the average consumer who has to table the information there in exchange for services?
Okay, so there are a couple of bills that have been that are already drafted around data privacy and all that. And part of what I saw in the PIN initiative, Paradigm initiative, asking that they should accelerate this bill to be passed. You know, we also need, and part of what it that will imply is that we'll be forced to start keeping all of those data locally. You know, we'll have all the data center, Main One, and a couple of these guys have already built, Rack Center and all of them. They already have massive infrastructure that we can actually leverage on as a country to ensure that all these data are domiciled here. Now, when you have this kind of system, there's a project I'm part of that is trying to integrate a lot of these data together in, you know, using the technology we call data warehousing, where you don't actually have to move data around. So today what we do is that we move data around from one point to the other before we can ultimately feel satisfied. But there are a lot of technology, you know, there's in big data, it's what this thing we call Hadoop, you know, and MapReduce, where you can actually just pick essential data and you don't duplicate data all around. And ultimately as government, you can make sense of it through all your various agencies. So ultimately, when we do those things, we can begin to, you know, minimize the risk that is associated with some of these data loss.
It's also quite disappointing to see the queues that actually had to thronged their way through to NIMC centers. Disappointing, because you see hundreds and hundreds of people there. Everybody's just rushing there. There were reports that people were at the NIMC centers as early as 6 a.m.
Yes.
There were reports that even the portal crashed and a whole lot more.
The time it takes.
How do we now develop stronger automation systems, and what sort of synergy do you also expect in terms of IT firms now leveraging on in-country capacity at this point?
I mean, so when you talk about that, we've got lots of software developers and engineers in Nigeria. So it is not lack of talent, capacity to build this technology. It is basically that when we are doing stuff as policymakers, what I call it is human-centered design. We need to. Our policy should be humans. It should be centered around, the humans. Think about people. Let's be empathetic. Okay, build smart system. I don't have to leave my house. I don't have to. You've collected my biometrics before in one form or the other. So whenever we are creating such policies, we should think about it and ensure that people get the best comfort and they get this thing done at the same time without having to risk their life. There's COVID-19 out there, and we know the risk. I will tell people, give them 2 weeks. And then they force you now shifted it by additional 3 weeks and all of that. We need to start thinking about people from the onset of designing any form of policy, so that we don't risk it. Because when we do that, our healthcare is also under pressure. So you have massive number of people who get infected. Then how many center of infectious disease do we have in the country? So, a lot of pressure, and it makes the whole thing messy.
And the telcos have also attempted to simplify the process as well. You have short codes that you have to dial. You confirm your NIN number. You also do the verification to know that it's well linked, and then you can get the text message which says, oh, you've successfully passed. But in terms of simplification of this process, but we still have to have that continuous sensitization on the part of the average Nigerian, because for so many, they just feel if they don't get to that center, that text message is just invalid. There's still that disconnect.
Digital transformation, pretty much. So, we are we know where we are as a country, and gradually we are adopting. USSD has helped us to get more people on board, technology. However, of course, there are still gaps. And this technology itself has, latency issue, failure points, and all that. There's massive failure points right now with people trying to link up their this thing together. And then people who have the card before saying that they cannot retrieve their number, they don't even know where their number is. And so there's a lot of education that we need to, and that is the more reason why we need to tread softly. No pressure. Tell people, motivate them. You have 6 months. Do this. However, when you do it, this is the benefit. Don't tell people that you are going to block them, for heaven's sake. So we need to tread softly. We need to be empathetic and let the citizens.
And going back to my first statement, for the fact that in our developmental agenda and policy direction, we have to work with data. Yes, it's also disappointing to see that not even up to 50% of Nigerians have one identification or the other, and there are so many loopholes here and there. We haven't even conducted population census since the last one we had. It's well over a decade as well. How do you think this tilts the narrative in terms of the growth trajectory that Nigeria would likely have? You look at, for example, we're having the conversation behind cameras about the weirdest people and countries in the world. We still do not have that sense of understanding of what development agenda is, working with data and the pool we have at this point in time to address our needs.
And that is why we have appointed these guys, because we really do think, to be sincere, when we appoint some of these guys or elect them into offices, that they are really smart, and we think they are really smart. But in doing this thing, they should involve stakeholders to help them to think. They hire smart people, they should listen to them. Okay, in coming up with this policy of using technology and doing all of the things that we need to do. Most of the countries, the weirdest nations on earth, what are the things they are doing differently? They are looking at the part of their culture that set them back, and they keep adjusting it. So we need to be open and keep adjusting, some of these things and the way we relate and we deal with people, so that ultimately we can get the best out of it. Data collection. What's it called? This whole big data. A lot of data flying around in Nigeria. A lot of data. We need to be deliberate. And I've heard a lot of these office holders or policymakers talk about data being the next new oil and all that. So if we know that, then we should integrate it into every part of our policy. if I want to create an ID, why are people not creating? A lot of people don't have ID card till date. You know, the reason is because everywhere you go to, from driver's license, over time they are working hard, and I can say that there are improvements. Yeah, but the truth is that you still see people saying that, oh, they are looking for an agent to pay to help them to get it. You go to passport office.
Process.
Yes, passport office. There's been a lot of improvements, but you go there sometimes 3 o'clock. They will tell you that, oh, come back tomorrow.
Or the network is down. The server is down.
So we've really gone past some of these things. This is 2020. In fact, this is 2021. So we should stop doing a lot of those things to ourselves. Because these things do exist. I've been to a public, I told you the other day that you go to a government office, there's a POS, you see the POS, the guy will say it's not working. Doesn't want to try it. So when we're talking about this thing, they are just simple things. And then they will tell you to go and withdraw. The nearest ATM to you is 1 kilometer. So there will be somebody else outside with POS charging you exorbitant fee to withdraw for you. Something they would have provided. So we keep creating a lot of bottlenecks. We need to be deliberate. Deliberate about every single thing that we do. Getting an ID should not be difficult. Once a child is given birth to, you create birth certificate. It's simple. From that point, the guy gets into the database, gets an ID, and we should just do that. This is a simple system. We don't need to hire Indians, we don't need to hire Americans or Europeans. Right here, we can do it ourselves.
And let's now also talk about the USSD charges. We are seeing a suspension to that, as well as verification fees. For so many people, it made no sense. Banks charge you, and then you have the telecom operator also charge you a fee. But that's some welcome development.
Absolutely. We are used to it. And sometimes sometimes government try to waive off stuff for people. As a way to motivate, it's good, it's a welcome idea. But the truth of the matter is that those are not as important as the overall ease, especially timeline and giving other better incentive. So while that's a good incentive, it's not always about, hey, we are helping you. You are not helping also by saying that you are waiving off this thing, because ultimately we'll do is bank is always taking my money. When you see their balance statement, do you see their statements at the end of the year? You see the kind of money they're making from USSD.
Charges and a whole lot more.
So it's crazy. They want to make it very easy for you to be able to spend your money. And each time you spend it, they take something out of it. So USSD has contributed to the growth of the country. However, of course, it's also a way of taking from the citizens, the poor citizens, continuously.
Well, we have the second wave of the COVID-19 here with Nigeria and the entire world. It is expected that we are also going to see new forecast and explosion in terms of digital services within that regard. What's your forecast as well in terms of the reception we are seeing in terms of online activities, the digital economy as a whole in general? What sort of boom do you think we'll be expecting for 2021?
Yeah, so we see more maturity in e-commerce. We're getting to that level of maturity. You are having logistics systems are getting smarter and very efficient.
I ask this because every single transaction we do now is almost from our telephones.
Absolutely. So with having 66 million people who already have SIM cards, so I want to believe that if you look at the ratio for people who are above 18 years, that is decent. So we can almost say for people above 18 years, we have over 50% of people already on smartphones using all of these things. So we're in 2021, we're going to see farmers. There are a lot of technology I've seen already, of farmers doing pure transaction, no cash transaction, in our rural areas. So in 2021, we're going to get more and more of this kind of experience as a country, ultimately. So e-commerce boom, online classes, online sort of, conferences, board meetings. We're going to get more and more of it.
And in the area of software development, what new disruptions do you think would also expect, especially with regards to the telecommunication industry?
Oh yeah, so a lot of the telcos, you see them now hiring indigenous software engineers. Yes, they're hiring us. We're building, great softwares. Things that normally were not automated before, they're looking at automating them. They are adopting the use of AI and machine learning in their processes. So it's growing. So I'll say, voila for the telco that doesn't want to use technology. Don't just be spending money on advertisement. Spend money on technology. There are a lot of human resources locally in Nigeria. Engage them, and we'll be willing to.
And in the area of infonomics as well, transferring what happens in terms of the digital space into real sense
Absolutely.
This is exactly what happens now
Yes,
across the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what we're going to get more. So the more you have indigenous people who are local citizens getting involved in industries, then they can bring that same skill, knowledge back to their local community and develop and fix issues that they are facing.
But for the NIMC now, wrapping up our conversation at this point in time, what's new adoption in terms of initiatives do you expect to see? And then for the portals as well, that you see just because of that crunch time, we have the portal also crash. What new innovations and innovative ideas do you expect them to be receptive to be able to have stronger portals that serve?
So a lot of those things, there are a lot of server engineers, smart people who can solve those problems. These are not new problems at all. So we just need to increase this, the tools that are being used. We can't use like an old approach. There are a lot of these even OEMs locally in Nigeria that we can work with to ensure that we don't face those kind of problems. How will you be trying to open a website and you're spending forever to get that open? So I think we should just engage these things. Some of the money that we spend trying to do these things that some people end up in people's pockets, they should pay it to the right people who can get the job done. And then these guys will solve the problem. We shouldn't be facing, what kind of data are we collecting, by the way? These are just bio data. Yeah, okay, the fingerprint information, yeah, which you can actually sync, locally. You can have background activities going on while you're collecting this data. So there are so many problems that have been solved by technology. Just to deploy the technology, have the right, people at the back end, use load balancer, a lot of things that they can use to actually solve the problem. So technology is not the problem. I think we need to, leadership is trying, but they can do better ultimately.
And the new phase we expect for the year 2021 is also 5G connectivity.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying, I think conversation around the 5G has really dropped,
But that doesn't mean it's missing in action.
No, it's not. So we expect that. Remember what I said, that it's the countries who adopt this technology first who are going to be the leader. And now China is talking about 6G. We've never even adopted 5G well enough. So I think that we should be expecting a lot to happen next year. In certain clusters, we might see some 5G deployments, which developers will move there, build some great product on top of it. We're always ready, a lot of them. Ultimately, as a nation, we'll begin to see the benefit of technology. As we embrace it, the more we embrace it, we'll see digital transformation across every sector. Please, our politicians should adopt these things, especially in policy formulation. Digital transformation is very important. Human-centered designs for their policy is very important.
Most definitely. Human-centered designs are much more preferably and always deliver on point in terms of meeting our developmental aspiration and agenda. And would want to see a telecom industry that really serves the people. We all want to grow. We all want to thrive, from the households to businesses and a whole lot more. The spectrum for growth is just immense. So we can't just take action. Yeah. And enough of all of those. You are not registered, you're blocked.
No, enough.
Thank you very much for your time on the show today, Joseph Agumbiade. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
My pleasure.